The backyard trails have been sitting here for a while, and I owe you guys an explanation. After all, this mountaintop is Berm Peak. That's what it means. Some of you don't even know that Burm Peak is a place. It's home to the flight deck, the whale tail, snake pit with its skinny gap jump, the infamous teeter cannon, which shouldn't even work, and countless other features. They've endured bugs, fungus, numerous storms, and neglect. But this week, I began clearing debris, blowing off the leaves, and addressing some safety issues. But there's a lot more to unpack than just the physical condition of my trails. At one time, based on actual numbers, these trails dwarfed everything else on mountain bike YouTube combined. This series was huge. Millions watched each week, but it was unsustainable. As those trail builds predictably sputtered out, I lost myself. I felt like a failure, and I had failed at something. Half my audience up and walked away slowly and painfully, and I felt powerless to do anything about it. All the while, these crazy and often dangerous features in my yard remained as a warning about how off the rails things can go when you fail to look at the big picture. How did building dumb mountain bike features in my backyard end with literal hate mail and a near mental health crisis? Well, now with hindsight, wisdom, and dad strength, I can tell you the whole story. It all started 40 minutes away from here in a tiny backyard in Swannanoa, North Carolina. Welcome to Burm Creek. Here's the berm, and here's the creek you'll end up in if you don't use it. And it was small, only a quarter acre of insanely steep hillside. In 2016, I started building trails there. I even made a map, a trailhead kiosk, and everything else you'd expect at a nature preserve. It was tiny, it was dumb, but it was relatable, and people were way into it, so I built more. I'm digging a 3-foot hole to sink the post into. The North Shore drop came first. I built it out of dimensional lumber from Home Depot, with one big post in the ground and a little skinny bridge. That was it. No need to build a landing, the hill was steep enough where it served the purpose. And since my dog supervised the build, I named it after him, and the drama drop was born. The videos never did justice to how sketchy that thing was, and adding a chicken line in the form of a roll-in actually made it worse. That was all part of the appeal, but as I continued building in my yard, the lack of flat ground became a nuisance. So I adapted. I built the picnic table, which protruded from the slope as a totally level platform. Great for eating lunch or hucking off the end. At that time, I kind of ran out of space to build things, but it didn't matter. There was always something to do. Here and there, I'd make a revision or modify a feature in some way. Not to mention, it was like a test course for any product I was testing. I was building stuff on Burm Creek, hacking away in the workshop, and traveling for adventures. It was the perfect balance, and I had unlimited energy for it during this YouTube renaissance. Sharing mountain biking from this particular perspective was brand new. It had never been tried before. I finally said goodbye to my so-called real career and took things full-time, which back then was nearly unthinkable. Most people, including my then clients, didn't even know what a full-time YouTube creator actually was. But the high school kids did, and in a tiny rural town like Swannanoa, Burm Creek was a big deal. I started getting knocks on my door or seeing people take selfies outside my house. The casual drive-bys became not so casual. It seems obvious and ridiculous now, but I was showing my home on video right there off the road. In my mind, nobody cared about YouTube. It's not like I was on television, but to those kids, television was already legacy media. So as Amy and I began closing our blinds and installing cameras everywhere, it was clear that Burm Creek had become an attractive nuisance and a potential liability. And so we began searching for a new home. We wanted privacy, land, and enough space for me to run my YouTube channel. And then we found a house south of Asheville that seemed to have everything. A 3-bay garage, 5.5 acres of steep hillside, and more than enough privacy to justify the move. But I struggled with the reality of breaking the news to my audience. Burm Creek was beloved, and we'd have to tear it all down. I started by holding a goodbye jam at Burm Creek, not yet revealing the new property until weeks later. Welcome to Burm Peak, my new home and the new set of this YouTube channel. I had very real fears about Burm Peak just failing completely because relatability was my brand. I had gone from a tiny patio in Fort Lauderdale with a closet packed full of bikes to a single family home with a one-car garage and a compact trail system built on my lawn. And now, the better part of a mountain, much less relatable. So I named it something familiar. Burm Peak was a nod to Burm Creek. But as it turned out, nobody cared about Burm Creek anymore. It didn't seem to matter what I built, the audience for it kept growing and growing. The overall story kept everyone watching, even if the features made no sense. The flight deck was a huge starting platform at the top of the property with a roll-in so steep, I had to experiment to make sure it would even work. Even the bike wash station was a big deal. I built out my workshop too, all sketchy and crazy, starting with ramps that took up half a bay. I was behaving exactly like a child would, with unlimited freedom and a credit card. That's why it stayed relatable. I was doing precisely what most people say they would do in my predicament, but never actually would. I was giving the people exactly what they wanted to see, and the feedback was validating. So it was all or nothing. I didn't pace myself. I was building something every single week. Most videos got posted at 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. whenever my editing session concluded. Then I'd get a few hours of sleep and go for a supply run. I was in a frenzy doing it all by brute force, feeling positively guilty about doing anything else. There I was, doing what I was most passionate about for a living. I wasn't entitled to me time or to stop and smell the roses. Only someone blind to their predicament would do that. That was my mindset at the time. And then anytime I posted content on something else besides the trails, many comments expressed disappointment and sometimes anger. I would get personal messages implying that I broke some kind of contract with my audience if I didn't post a trail build for a couple of weeks. And my response was to push harder and keep posting. All I was doing, sometimes 100 hours in a week, was making those videos. They were all my life consisted of. It's all I could talk about or think about because I had been living few other experiences to even draw from. I had nothing else by which to measure my self-worth. I was only as good as my latest video. To some degree, I had effectively gone insane. Now, while the fragility of the whole thing seems pretty clear now, I couldn't see the danger in what I was doing. I was in the middle of what video creators call an arc. An arc can be great if you plan for it, but if you don't know you're in one, it's like a time bomb.
That was pretty bad.
Suppose you have a channel doing travel vlogs and you decide to build a homestead. So you find some land, you get permits, every episode you make progress, and every episode you gain viewers who are there to watch you build the homestead. The algorithm ties homesteading videos to the viewers who watch just that, and you continue feeding it. But then the homestead is finished, there's no reason to watch anymore, yet you quit your job and hired an editor. So you try to force it, you spin your wheels, and you end up further back than where you started. At the pace I was going, countless things could have bucked my momentum. An injury, a slight algorithm change, or just too much repetition. I had already moved to a huge property, set up a sweet workshop, built a roll-in with crazy lines off the top, and a host of ramps and berms stacked one after another. I had a trailer, a gator, a mini excavator. I had changed the name of my channel from Seth's Bike Hacks to Burm Peak. There was nothing left to wait for or to watch for. I always figured we'd rebuild stuff or make it better, close old lines and build new ones. In my mind, people were watching for the features and the builds. But really, they were riding the arc with me. At the beginning at Burm Creek, I could cut into my lawn with a shovel and print out a cheesy trail map and people would watch. But to get equal results later, I had to build a teeter cannon. As the arc matures, you need to keep escalating. At the same time, YouTube changed and a 10-minute video once per week wouldn't cut it anymore. people's tastes were changing. People had already seen everything there was to see. I could just barely keep up as it was, and now I needed longer videos on crazier features that put me at greater risk and garnered less interest. Side note, that stuff I built was at the bleeding edge of my skill level and risk tolerance. Riding it in my free time would be like a Red Bull athlete riding Rampage for fun, like your evening ride after work. So I had this property full of stuff that I wouldn't actually use regularly. What's more, my mistake of focusing just on the features themselves put me in direct competition with short-form videos, which were gaining popularity. Still, I was clueless. I kept spinning my wheels. I was pretty close to strapping on a pair of water skis and finding a shark to jump over. Now, over the last 6 years, we had a global pandemic. I had a complicated ankle injury that required several surgeries, and somehow, Amy and I started a family during all this, turning my priorities upside down. The last 6 years have been a blur with many ups and downs. I'm spread thinner than ever, but I'm still here. I came out the other end stronger and wiser. I'm well, physically and mentally. I'm inspired. I feel more connected than ever to you, the audience. I met so many of you guys at Sea Otter, an event I haven't been to in several years. More than ever, the why is crystal clear. My own 11-year arc was my transformation from a kid who suddenly found himself in control of the candy store, and I ran it exactly like a kid would. But I've transformed into Dad Seth, who's actually rationing the candy. I'm no longer the idiot on his patio putting glitter in his tire sealant, or the idiot with way too much property figuring out how to build a lip. I'm the idiot that has somehow, against all odds, become an adult. Burm Peak is where my children will form their earliest memories, and so I can't just build for the algorithm anymore. And so, I revisit these trails not by force, but with purpose and on my own terms. Now, the real problem with this rock garden is I made it challenging without it really being fun. You're just afraid that you're gonna die the whole time, that your tire's gonna get stuck somewhere. It wrecks tires, it wrecks rims. This resembles no natural rock garden, and so we're gonna tone it down a little bit and make it easier to ride fast. But first, look at this over here. It's seriously overgrown. This is Elmer Fudd down here, and you can see dead tree is falling on it. So I think this thing is gonna be decommissioned. Talk about an attractive nuisance. Snake Pit over here has been causing me some problems. Now, this is a skinny line with a jump at the end. There's an A line, and then there's an easier B line. The B line is rotting away, so my little son is walking on it, balancing. He's having all sorts of fun. I know those planks are gonna come loose, and there's just screws sticking up out of them. And so, as a dad, I have gotta get rid of that B line, or at least get rid of the planks there so that they can't cause an issue. Then, we can ride it. So, we can save almost all of these planks. They're either cedar or black locust, which means they're naturally rot resistant. These are perfectly fine. We can reuse them for another skinny feature. So we've succeeded in neutralizing this thing. Now it's just like another log in the woods. This thing kids are gonna play on, but I'd rather that than a tablet. And it's pretty solid. It's got a few seasons left in it, so let's fix it and ride it. Why is it broken? Well, you may have noticed it looks a little different up here by the house, by the pump track, the backyard area of the property. This is where my kids play, and so I had to clear it out. I cleared out all the deadfall, dead logs, brush, overgrowth. We just left all the trees. If it's a sapling, if it's a tree, if it's a big rhododendron, we left it. And so now it just looks like normal woods, and we can see my kids playing, and I have the perfect canvas to build things. But to do that, we brought in a forestry mulcher, and it impacted the bottom of the snake pit line. A forestry mulcher is a big attachment for a front loader that just grinds up anything it touches. And yeah, it fell victim to this and turned it into mulch, so we're gonna fix it. So this one's kind of a doozy. When I start building other stuff up here, it's not gonna be this risky. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be stuff my kids can step up to someday. But this is a remnant from an era where everything had to be as sketchy as possible. You go up this thing and you can't see anything because it goes up and then down, and so it blocks your view. So once you crest the top, you have to think quick and get going straight because you're gonna hit a jump with a skinny landing. Like I said, it's a doozy. It's gonna be really fun to ride. All right, here goes. Gotta come in with some authority and commit. Yes! Oh man. We still do have a score to settle up here with this main line off the flight deck. So I'll tell you something you might not want to hear. This line is gonna last a while because I built it out of good rot-resistant lumber. It's still running perfectly, doesn't show any signs of falling apart. But when it does, I'm not gonna rebuild it. I might be 45, 50 years old, and I'm just gonna have a lot to lose, and there's no reason for me to be riding that every day. I don't even ride it for fun normally, I ride it for a video, right? I have this one crazy line that I can show people when they come over. And I'm not saying it's not fun, but I'm saying it's unnecessarily risky. We're not gonna build anything like that again. So we're gonna ride it until it's not there. And actually, given that tree that we cleared away from there, I have not ridden this in over a year and a half, not since Helene. So, let's do it. Let's ride Roto-Rooter all the way down to the wall ride, and if something feels weird, we pull off and stop. I should have trimmed that. Okay. Okay. You jump over this, hit the rock garden. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's not smooth, but it runs just as good as ever. In terms of tight, technical, weird jumps, I'm as skilled and practiced as I've ever been, and so I felt comfortable just dropping in there cold. But again, the risk management, I should be checking things over 2-3 times and trying to think of the things that I'm not thinking of. And when it's stuff that my kids are gonna ride, I'm really gonna have to think of that. So that's the story about how I lost the plot, and at some point continued building for all the wrong reasons. It feels good to get that part off my chest and level with you guys. Burm Peak is still where this all happens, whether it's a build, a test, or just me talking to you guys like I am now. As for the trails, I have no grand plan other than keeping it all manageable. I'm focusing on sustainability because I have less time than ever to maintain this stuff. One of the newest additions, the pump track, gets more mileage than anything else I've ever built. Other things may require railings at some point. I have a whole new set of considerations. But I've taken my yard back from outside influences, and for most of you, that's actually much easier to relate to. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.